committing to accelerate both Agendas 2030 and Agenda 2063. Please share with us the key lessons learned and the challenges encountered, and how your country prioritizes accelerating the implementation for the Sustainable Development Goals and inherently the Agenda 2063. And I give you the floor, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and colleagues, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to commend the African Union Commission, NEC, and all partners for convening this very important meeting. For Tanzania, one of our most valuable experience has been the preparation of 3 voluntary national reviews. The first national review enables us to introduce the SDGs into our national development planning frameworks, and the second one strengthened institutional coordination and stakeholder engagement, and our third one, which we presented yesterday, represents a transition from reporting progress to accelerating implementation towards 2030, while simultaneously laying the foundation for Tanzania Development National Vision and the 5-year development plan. From experience, I wish to highlight 5 main lessons that we can share with our colleagues. Firstly, is the institutional ownership. Institutional ownership is essential. The VNR should never be viewed as a UN reporting exercise. In Tanzania, it has been treated as a national development management tool. Our National Planning Commission coordinated the process, bringing together various government and non-state actors, including government ministries, local government authorities, the National Bureau of Statistics, parliaments, DPs, academia, civil society, and the private sector. So this whole government approach and whole society approach strengthen our national ownership and ensure that the findings directly informed our planning and our budgeting processes. Secondly, integrating the SDGs into national planning makes implementation easier. Rather than implementing the SDGs separately, Tanzania mainstreamed them into our national development architecture. Our VNR is fully aligned with our national development vision and our 5-year development plan, ensuring that the SDG priorities are reflected in sectoral plans, public investment programs, and annual budgets. Thirdly, broad stakeholder participation improves both quality and accountability. Compared to our previous VNRs, the 2026 VNR review involved significantly broader consultations. For example, we engaged government institutions. We were able to involve local government authorities, 185 of them, over 800 civil society organizations, more than 1,000 private sector companies, youth organizations, academia, and the UN system, of course. This ensured that the report reflected the experiences of citizens rather than just the government. Fourthly, investing in national statistics systems is indispensable. One clear lesson here is that the data cycles depends very much on good data, so evidence is key here. Fifthly, VNR should become an implementation instrument, and that the VNR is not just a report, but its value lies in how government use the findings to improve policies. The challenges that we see, some of them, first, for example, despite the improvement that we see, data gaps remain a real challenge. And secondly, coordinating multiple institutions in government and private sector also remains quite a challenge, both technically and financially. Thirdly, capacities across local government remain even. For a country bigger than ours, with more than 108 local government authorities, coordination becomes a big issue, especially when it comes to quality of data. Fourthly, the global shock that we all know also present as a very big challenge. And fifthly, as all of us have pointed out here, is the question of the finance.
To be able to co-create at planning and programming so that we lend jointly at member states. Allow me at this stage to say the implementers of the two agendas, the joint implementation and therefore the better execution of the continental and the global strategy are our member states. I want to give 3 hints of what member states need to be conscious of. Member states need to be conscious of the line of sight that we have, if I may cite it bottom up, the sub-national plans, the national development plans, the regional plans. And in this conversation, regional plans, we are talking about our SADC, not regions as in Africa, Asia. So for the Africa we want, that we said by the vision, need to be a force rocker in the global arena, for us to showcase of it at the HLPF. First, we must take care of the national plans, the sub-national plans, the regional plans, and in that way, our presence in the global arena will be defined. The second messaging is that we need a balance.
The launch of the Africa Sustainable Development Report presented today comes at a moment when the relationship between Africa's continental agenda and the global 2030 framework is not merely complementary, it is decisive. Our African countries integrate the aspirations of Africa Agenda 2063 with the targets of Agenda 2030 at the national and local levels will determine whether either agendas deliver meaningful change by their respective horizons. Mozambique experiences that this integration is both possible and essential. For sharing some experience of Mozambique, we have to say that both agendas are fully integrated into our 20-year National Development Strategy and the government 5-year program, which emphasize the need to commit with the agriculture, infrastructure, and the industrialization targets. Our planning frameworks, budgets, allocation, and monitoring system are structured around the shared priorities of sustainable and inclusive development that both agenda defines. We contribute biannually to the continental ISDR reporting process, and those contributions inform our national planning cycles in return. Excellencies, Mozambique on July 10th presented our second Voluntary National Review to the HLPF, which the most comprehensive SDG accountability exercise we have undertaken. What makes it distinctive is that it incorporates for the first time the voluntary local reviews from 6 districts and municipalities integrated under the principle of one territory, one process, one product. That local national integration is precisely what both Agenda 2030-2063 requires if their targets are not to move from national strategy into actual communities. I want to be direct about the constraint that binds both agenda most tightly. Its financing and debt burden. African countries implementing ambitious national strategy under Agenda 2063 and 2030 simultaneously face borrowing costs that bear no relation to our reform efforts or our development potential. Mozambique removal from the FATF grey list reflecting measurable progress on transparency and macroeconomic integrity has not translated into fair sovereign risk pricing. So the ISDR must speak clearly to this, and the international financial architecture as currently structured must to define the ability of Africa to finance its own development agenda, and the reforms of what architecture is a prerequisite for the future. Mr. Chair, to conclude, Mozambique will continue to deepen the integration of both agendas at the national and local levels to invest in subnational accountability architecture that makes that integration real, and to advocate for the finance conditions that make it possible. We look forward to the findings of the ISGR 2026 informing both continental and global deliberation, and we encourage that its recommendation on finance and institutional capacity be taken up not as aspirations but as operational commitments by development partners and multilateral institutions alike. I thank you for that.
Thank you, Minister, for
and countless of review processes. Why are we still off track? I believe the answer is not lack of knowledge. It is the gap between political commitment and institutional accountability. Too often, we celebrate the Voluntary National Reviews, APRM reports, and regional declarations, but we ask too few questions afterwards. Did those recommendations influence the next national budgets? Did they shape public investment decisions? Were they translated into legislation? Did parliaments actually debate them? Did parliamentary committees follow up on their implementation? Because unless the answer to these questions is yes, then we
knew that Guinea-Bissau now has a new national development plan for the period 2026 to 2035. This important strategic tool is fully aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals and reflects the country's strong commitment to inclusive, sustainable development, focus on the well-being of the people. Despite the economic, political, and social challenges faced during the implementation of the development plan, Guinea-Bissau has made significant progress in several key areas, especially in energy, infrastructure, social protection, social reforms, and human capital development.
The UN Office of the Special Advisors on Africa, the UNDP, and other organizers. I'm very happy to join you today for this important African Day at high-level political forum for ministerial meeting. And also I just want to congratulate on the launch of the Africa Sustainable Development Goals 2026. The report comes at an important moment as Africa has only few years remaining to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals while advancing the 2063 agenda. Somalia has presented yesterday the second Voluntary National Review, and we are very happy to report that Somalia has progressed, made some very good progress in terms of the security, access to education, reducing the poverty 15%, and other areas in terms of water and other human rights and gender issues. The NTB creates the conditions for inclusive economic growth. Our priority is not simply recovering from fragility, but it is building resiliency and transforming our economy.
Concept. It is a daily necessity. A small island development state, we face increasing climate risk, prolonged droughts, limited freshwater resource, and high dependence of imported energy. These challenges have taught us the important lesson. Water and energy must be addressed together. We know that integrated solutions deliver better and more sustainable results. A clear example is the close relationship between these two sectors. Currently, about 90% of Cabo Verde's drinking water is produced through desalination. We need to make example. We need to make energy reliable, affordable, and increasingly renewable, as is essential to ensure our water security.
Of implementing the SDGs and agendas.
Thank you, Ms. Mayendi and Mr. Adams. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, and fellow young leaders, it is an honor to join you in this important conversation on Africa Day at the high-level political forum. And thank you to the Office of the Special Advisor on Africa for this opportunity. I believe the unique role of young Africans and the diaspora is not simply to support Africa's development, but to help shape it. Throughout today's discussion, we've heard about investments in clean water, clean energy, industrialization, innovation, and partnerships. While these are all essential, but I would like to leave us with a different question. Who will sustain these investments 20 years from now? Because sustainability is not determined on the day a project is launched. It's determined years later by whether the people who have inherited these projects had the skills, the opportunity, and the responsibility to keep it working. A water system is only sustainable if someone who knows how to maintain it. Clean energy only transforms lives when it powers businesses that create jobs. Innovation only creates prosperity when entrepreneurs can access markets, finance, and opportunity. I'd like to agree about the statement that has been mentioned multiple times about youth being our assets. African youth are innovators. They are creating solutions that are adapting to their environments. But I'd like to take it a step further. As a young African leader in the diaspora with so many who are passionate about Africa's development, we speak of the solutions to accelerate development and stronger implementation. But we believe that the Africans in the diaspora are in a unique position and one of our greatest assets. But yet that position has not yet been fully utilized. I believe the Africans in the diaspora is one of our greatest assets. But too often we define diaspora engagement by remittances. But what if investing in Africa meant more than sending money back home? What if it meant investing our knowledge, our ideas, our skills, our networks? The diaspora brings global experience, technical experience, investment relationships that can help accelerate implementation across every SDG under review. Our greatest contribution is not only what we send back home, it is what we build together. And that belief inspired Build with Africa, an initiative of the African Diaspora Youth Hub. Our philosophy is simple. Africa's future should not simply be built for Africans. It should be built with Africans on the continent and across the diaspora. That also requires us to rethink partnership. The greatest partnership under SDG 17 is not only between governments and institutions, it's also between generations. Imagine...
Mesdames et messieurs, chers collègues jeunes, c'est avec un grand honneur pour moi de prendre la parole au nom de l'Union panafricaine de la jeunesse, porteuse des aspirations, de l'énergie, de l'engagement des millions de jeunes africains. Permettez-moi de commencer par un message simple, mais essentiel. L'Afrique ne pourra atteindre ses ambitions de développement durable sans sa jeunesse africaine. Et la jeunesse africaine ne demande plus seulement à être considérée comme l'avenir, elle demande à être reconnue comme un acteur majeur du présent. Le terme de cette journée de l'Afrique, au forum politique de haut niveau sur le développement durable, nous rappelle une exigence fondamentale: transformer nos engagements en actions concrètes, coordonnées et durables. L'agenda 2030, l'agenda 2063 porte une même vision, celle d'une Afrique prospère, pacifique, inclusive, résiliente et pleinement actrice de son propre destin. Notre continent ne manque ni de ressources, ni de talents, ni d'idées. L'Afrique possède une richesse exceptionnelle, son capital humain. Avec plus de 60% de sa population âgée de moins de 25 ans, l'Afrique possède le plus grand capital humain du monde. Notre jeunesse n'est pas un défi à gérer, elle est la solution à construire. Mais cette opportunité doit être accompagnée par des politiques ambitieuses, des investissements adaptés et une véritable confiance dans les capacités des jeunes. La jeunesse africaine n'est pas uniquement une bénéficiaire des politiques de développement, elle est une force de propulsion, une force d'innovation, une force économique et une force de paix et de stabilité. Chaque jeune entrepreneur qui crée des emplois, chaque jeune chercheur qui développe une solution innovante, chaque jeune agriculteur qui contribue à la sécurité alimentaire, chaque jeune militant qui défend l'environnement, ou chaque jeune médiateur qui œuvre pour la paix, la stabilité, participe déjà à la construction de la vie que nous voulons.
Nos jeunes Africains, je pense que le contexte est important pour le Gabon, parce que je parlerai de l'agenda de développement du Gabon. Le Gabon adopte aujourd'hui une étape décisive de son développement sous l'impulsion des plus hautes autorités, et je pense que l'Union africaine a été au centre des changements qui a eu lieu dans notre pays. Notre pays s'est engagé dans une nouvelle trajectoire fondée sur une gouvernance rénovée, une croissance plus inclusive et durable, ainsi qu'une action publique davantage orientée vers les résultats. Nous sommes à New York aujourd'hui parce que nous avons décidé de faire un examen volontaire de la mise en œuvre de nos ODD pour l'année 2026. Et cet examen volontaire traduit la volonté du Gabon d'évaluer avec transparence les progrès accomplis, mais aussi de partager les défis auxquels nous demeurons confrontés. Car le développement durable est avant tout un exercice d'apprentissage collectif qui exige lucidité, responsabilité et coopération.
Mesdames et messieurs, merci pour ces réflexions inspirantes partagées ce matin. La gestion des déchets n'a pas été mentionnée. Pourtant, l'ODD 11 est le seul qui la mentionne explicitement, même si une autre mention spécifique au gaspillage alimentaire se tient dans l'ODD 12. Les infrastructures de l'ODD 9 sont nécessaires pour la mise en place d'une collecte et d'un traitement des déchets efficients. Mais ces infrastructures de gestion des déchets présentent un coût en investissement initial et en entretien annuel, qu'il est difficile à couvrir dans les conditions d'espace fiscal contraint évoquées ce matin. Et pourtant, collecter et traiter les déchets partout et pour tous. Les déchets produits aujourd'hui et ceux du passé. Cela est essentiel pour protéger la santé, les ressources en eau, la sécurité alimentaire et de nombreux autres objectifs de développement durable.
Can we build the Africa we want if African ways of knowing remain absent from this global decision making? And this assumption is challenged by the mindset of the people who have spaces to HLPF, high-level political forums. You and I in this room may have access today. What about the people with no spaces to this type of access? We can continue to speak about financing justice, climate and gender justice. What about knowledge and language justice? They want Africans in the room just as a checklist, inviting us repeatedly to participate in development, but yet our knowledge is considered as vague and our culture is just another story or folktale. Let us talk about these issues as epistemic issues. If this is an epistemicide, a deliberate way of killing our knowledges. You know, development is not just about distributing wealth, it is also about redistributing our intellectual authority. And as we accelerate the SDG and Agenda 2063, I invite us to ask not only how we finance that, but restoring the confidence in African knowledge, preserving and protecting our African languages, and creating equal space for African ways of knowing within global policy. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ministers, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we meet today to discuss how to accelerate the Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063, but if you are honest with ourselves, we are not moving fast enough. Across our 54 African countries, millions of young people continue to face access to job opportunities, unequal access to education and security, climate shocks, and limited participation in decision making. Yet they are constantly told they are the future. Young people are not only the future, they are the present and they are ready. The challenge is not a lack of youth leadership. The challenge is whether our institutions are prepared to trust young people with real responsibilities, meaningful representation, and adequate investment. We cannot achieve the Sustainable Development Goals or Agenda 2063 if over 60% of African population remain on the margins of policy implementation. Youth inclusion must move beyond declarations. It must be reflected in national budgets, development, and also the partners to ensure that the voice of young Africans, they are part of the decision-making process. Let this not be another meeting where we celebrate our ambitions. Let it be the moment where we collectively decide to accelerate implementation with young people at the center. Because the African world will not be built for young people, it will be built with young people. Thank you so much.
Also the Special Advisor on Africa as one of the co-organizers. Our sincere appreciation to all of the partners, in particular the African Union, the African Union Commission, but in particular the Permanent Mission, represented through Ambassador Idris. We'd like to express our appreciation to ECA, to the African Development Bank, and to UNDP, and all of the persons who have intervened today. I would also like to say a big thank you to the excellent interpreters of the African Union. Thank you to all who have spoken. Over to Botho, who will then hand over to our closing speaker.
Thank you very much. I sincerely would like, on behalf of the African Union, as coming from the cabinet of the chairperson and his cabinet, to say we have been having a very grateful time during the HLPF. We have sensed what member states come up to present at the global stage versus what we've been receiving in the Agenda 2063 reports. And it indeed reinforces with the last comments we made that for us to do better at global stage, let's take care of our backyard. A comment about the issue of languages. We have one of our aspiration, Moonshot 5, speaks of African values being explicit and promoted. And I earlier talked about the 7 aspirations, 7 moonshots. They need a balance. They all need to happen for us to show up in a positive note at the global stage. So I totally agree with you. The youth, the passionate that it is not the leaders of tomorrow. We create our tomorrow now. We co-create tomorrow with the leadership that are existing in their youthful years. They are not leaders in waiting, because also there are a lot of changes in the atmosphere, be it technology. What they know, we don't necessarily know as adults around the decision-making tables. So I totally agree with that. In a nutshell, we would like to appreciate our partners. We would like to appreciate the member states for showing up for scrutiny. Showing up for voluntary national reviews is basically to say I'm willing to share experiences. I'm also willing to learn. So the humility of learning is an African virtue, and I believe the opportunity for voluntary national reviews is far much appreciated. Also, along with, let it not be a tick the box. Let us not be here again to say or describe the same problems and then suggest the same recommendations. They will always be valid because African problems are not a theory. They are real and they need solutions. For as long as they are not solved, we find ourselves coming up with one recommendation year after year. It is a stubborn problem glaring at us. Let's eliminate it so that in the next reporting, it will not feature in our report. Leading by saying it is a decade of acceleration for us. In the next 2 weeks, we are going to be having 2 executive council meetings, and we wish that the spirit of transformation, better coordination, resourcing, we carry it into the next conversation. The host, the organizers, I cannot thank you more, and most of all, the generators of the report that we were launching today. Allow me to then hand over to Dr. Balkis Osman Elasha from one of the partners, African Development Bank, the Chief Regional Coordinator, to come out to do the official closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the close of this important Africa Day gathering, allow me to express my sincere appreciation to all participants for the rich discussion, the practical insights, and renewed commitment demonstrated today. Our conversations highlighted both the progress Africa has made and the challenges that still lie ahead in our collective journey towards sustainable development goals. We have heard valuable lessons from countries undertaking voluntary national reviews and explored pathways for accelerating sustainable development across our continent. These exchanges reaffirm a simple but powerful message. Africa's future depends not only on national action, but also on the strength of our collective regional resolve. As we look towards 2030, we must acknowledge an uncomfortable reality. We are entering the final segment of SDG journey at a time when multiple crises continue to intersect. Climate change, debt burden, food insecurity, biodiversity loss, geopolitical tensions and conflicts, and growing development financing gap threatens to slow progress in many of our countries. Yet, this is not a moment for pessimism, it is a moment for decisive action. The last mile to 2030 must be different from the path we have traveled so far. Incremental progress will not be enough. The scale of the challenge requires transformational change. And in this respect, I have 5 key messages for Africa. First, we should invest in resilience as a foundation for sustainable development. Climate change is no longer a future risk, it is today's development challenge. Every investment in agriculture, water, energy, infrastructure, health and education must be designed to withstand climate shock and build long-term resilience. The second message is that we need to focus more on implementation. We have enough policies, strategies and action plans, and implementation is a must, but it has to be integrated because sustainable development goals are interconnected and our responses must be as well. Investment that create jobs, expand access to energy, strengthen food security, empower women and youth, and protect ecosystems and deliver multiple development benefits and simultaneously. The third message is, of course, the finance as an oil for development. And we should be realistic. We can't speak about billions anymore. To match the real needs, we need now to aim higher, to look at for trillions. And public resources alone will not close this gap. We must strengthen domestic resource mobilization, expand innovative financing mechanisms, deepen regional capital markets, and create conditions that attract greater private sector investment into sustainable development. The fourth message is, of course, the regional integration, the regional cooperation. And I know there are barriers. We speak about it, but we need to do more to remove the barriers. And it can be a very strong engine for progress. The African continental, for example, continental free trade area, the regional infrastructure corridors, shared energy markets, digital connectivity, transboundary climate solution offer unprecedented opportunities to accelerate development at scale. No country can achieve SDGs in isolation, and our success will depend on regional action and solidarity. The fifth message is about the human dimension, the people, at the center of development. They are the greatest assets for Africa, people, especially young population. We have seen the messages coming from the youth and of course the trust youth. They are the future of the country. And they need to be given the chance. We need to create opportunities for them, to give them jobs, skills, innovation, and hope, of course. The final years to talk 2030 should not be viewed simply as a countdown to a deadline. It should be viewed as an opportunity to redefine Africa's development trajectory. By 2030, success should be reflected in communities that are more resilient to climate shocks, in women and young people who have greater opportunities, in farmers who have withstand drought and floods, in cities that are greener and more inclusive, and economies that create prosperity while protecting natural capital. Today's discussion has shown that Africa possesses the knowledge, the institutions, the partnership, and the ambition needed to achieve this vision. What is required now is 3S: speed, scale, and sustained political commitment. Let us therefore leave this forum with a renewed sense of urgency. Let us transform our commitments into implementation. Let us transform challenges into opportunities. And let us ensure that when the world reaches 2030, Africa will be remembered not as a continent lagging behind, struggling to catch up, but as a continent that demonstrated leadership, resilience, innovation, and determination in advancing sustainable development. Thank you.
We have concluded. Thank you so much. Wishing you all a very good day.